Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cocktails and Curiosities podcast. I'm your host, Axel Dreamsaver, and soon we'll be joined by my co-host, Knox. What's up, everybody? Hope you all are having a wonderful start to your week, and I hope you are all having a lovely evening. I do apologize for starting a little later than we were supposed to. Knox got hung up at work, and we just had to make a couple arrangements. To make things a little easier for him, considering we have stuff going on IRL. So, Mondays, we will be doing Cocktails and Curiosities at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. It'll give him enough time to get off work and get a shower, get some food at him or whatever, and start the podcast. But yeah, we have quite a bit on the docket today. We're going to be continuing soulology, basically the study of souls and, in our case, the paranormal. So yeah, it's gonna be a great day. We're gonna have a good podcast. This time we're actually gonna go the full length of the podcast this time around because we haven't done it in a couple weeks, so that's kind of on us. But yeah, let us get this man's in here, shall we? Let us get this man's in here.
There we go.
Hello. I call on the Knox baby.
Hello. It's been a while.
It has been a hot minute.
It's been what, about a week? It's actually been about a week. It's not been that long.
Yeah, it's been about a week. But like even the week before, we didn't really go for very long. We were kind of speed running at that point.
Yeah, we'll try and get this back to a regular schedule. We've been kind of busy with there've been a lot of like off and on stuff and a lot of difficulties in our personal lives. But I believe our last topic was Spiritology was what we were getting into.
Kind of Spiritology, Soulology, I don't quite remember. I put Soulology,
hold on.
But I think it's Spiritology. I think you're right on that.
Let me double check. I'll double check this.
I think it was Spiritology.
Spiritology. We're going into Spiritology. Spiritology is, depending on where you look, it is. Well, thanks. Spiritology. See numerology.
Nice.
That's different. That is different Spiritology. There's the Christian Spiritology, which is like the study of the spirit, but we're talking about kind of like an agnostic Spiritology, which is just the study of spirit worlds and spiritual philosophies and beliefs and stuff like that. A bit different but similar. Let's see. I think we went into kind of fundamentals of what kind of spirits are out there. Do you have anywhere you want to specifically go today? Do you want to go into like sociological spiritology, how it's affecting our culture? Oh, excuse me, our culture. Do you want to go into like more nitty-gritty things? Like what are we, what I mean, I'll leave it up to you on what you think we should talk about next.
Well, we went briefly into basically identifying and cataloging different forms of spiritual activity and interactions with the living from the dead in general.
Yeah.
I think we should elaborate a little bit more on that because we didn't really dive too deep into it, particularly the difference between a residual and an intelligent haunting, and the like a little bit more into the nitty gritty of what exactly can come from like each category of spirit,
Trying to
what
see
you
if
can
there's an
expect.
official classification guide. I doubt there is, but yeah, I don't see anything. The issue with a lot of these things is they're basically up to the individual and the group that you talk to, because each one will have oh God, what would the spirit manifestations? I'll do research while you talk. Go ahead and talk about what you know on the matter. You were
Well,
talking about
I guess we could start from the beginning, which is the difference between a residual and an intelligent haunting. I think that'd be a good place to
that's
start.
kind of important.
So the difference between a residual haunting and a intelligent haunting is the means of how the soul is recorded. Energy, of course, we know as, you know, the law of conservation of mass and all that says, hey, energy can't be created or destroyed. That's just a fact. We know this.
Well, that's a scientific fact.
Yes, it's a scientific
We're pretty
fact.
certain that's a really good thing to work with.
Yes. So with that notion in mind, when our soul leaves the material plane, it usually doesn't just go away. And it comes in two flavors, as I say. They come in two flavors. So we'll start with a residual haunting. A residual haunting can come in many forms and in many fashions. One of the big ones is with something called the stone tape theory. The theory states that whenever a person dies with enough emotion of any form, that can be happiness, sadness, regret, anguish, anger, you name it, it leaves an imprint on objects and items within the area that it occurred. That be wood flooring, stone, limestone is very common with that. Some personal objects can have attachments to them that can be residual.
Yeah, this is known kind of more in my area as imprinted objects, because
Correct.
they can be done by living and dead people.
Correct.
Essentially, like the idea of, like, think about if you've lived with someone for a while and then they move away. A lot of people will say it's like they never left. I can still feel their presence here and there. That's residual energy left over from their presence. It's more along the lines of, from my perspective, more along the lines of not energy being created or destroyed, but information not being created or destroyed. The information of what was there and what happened is still there, and it's essentially being replayed over and over. But
Yeah.
that may be different to some other definitions and stuff. God, this sunburn itches.
Yeah. Same.
Try not to scratch it.
Mine's getting pretty bad too. I'm gonna have to put some more aloe on it after the podcast. We went swimming, and we were stupid enough not to wear sunscreen.
I didn't think I'd be in the pool, so I didn't wear it. I don't even think we have any. But that's off topic. More on the matter of residual versus intelligent haunting.
Yeah, so with residual hauntings, predominantly it's like a loop. It can either be a presence, it could be voices, it could be even sounds like footsteps.
I'm gonna go get some alloy right now. Actually, you keep talking.
Yeah. Sometimes it can even be apparitions. Apparitions being a translucent figure or shape of a person who once was. Predominantly, you'll see residual hauntings from battles, unfortunate events such as suicides, or even murders. As something that has a lot of emotionally charged energy in a location can have residual hauntings. And they're actually quite common. As far as objects are concerned, it's usually something like pendants or personal items that may associate with a person in question. It could be, it could be just about anything, in all honesty. It could be as simple as a doll, or, like I said, a pendant, a ring, a coin. It depends on the era, the person, and the cause of the event.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
go
back
ahead.
again, by the way. Yeah, some of these, because I think we both have two different views on this, which is very interesting. Because you come more from the like scientific model of ghosts is the best way I can describe it. This is more on like ghost hunters and stuff like that. My model is more into the spiritual side, where it's more like shamans and stuff. And shamans, for them, the residual energy, it's not a haunting. There's nothing there actually. It's like an illusion. It's smoke and mirrors, and so it would be more of what you would refer to as like a very like it's more of like an imprinted spell than anything else, and it can happen from it can happen on accident, and it can happen on purpose. You can imprint something with purpose, and that's how like magic is mostly done. Or you can, just like be around something for a while or use something for a specific purpose a lot, and then it imprints it differently. And that can be kind of like kind of incidental. It's just an activity happened here without the purpose of creating this, but still created an effect anyways. So it's a bit different viewpoints. So like shamans wouldn't call that a haunting because there's no spirit there to haunt. It's just residual energy, and then that just means that needs cleansed.
Yeah, whereas my side of the fence from the scientific side would be that is a form of haunting, but is not what is known as a true haunting or intelligent haunting, which we will now go into next.
Yeah.
So on my side, an intelligent haunting is as follows. An intelligent haunting is a spirit who has not completely left the material plane. It is a remnant of a either time long past or a person who has not fully passed on or accepted the passing to the immaterial. So, it could literally be anyone. It could be someone from early as yesterday to as late as, 1,000 years ago. And that category kind of splits up in its own ways depending on which spirit you're talking about. Each intelligent haunting has a different set of rules and a different set of parameters that can be in place for whatever haunting is happening there. It could be as simple as a human haunting, or it could be a negative haunting. You could have a negative spirit, not necessarily demonic, but a negative spirit with a lot of, energy and power and regret from their life. Or, we could have daemons, or as, and some people would even say, oh, there's demons. It depends on what you're dealing with. But the difference between a residual and an intelligent one is it can still interact with the world of the living. It can give intelligent responses. It can give intelligent interactions, such as moving objects or messing with recording equipment. such as EMF scanners and video recording equipment, audio, and the likes. But the difference mainly being is it can still interact and mess with the material plane.
Yeah. And there are a lot of times in the spiritual realm, um, a particular type of haunting um, depends, like what it is depends on how it interacts with you, particularly based on your beliefs. Because sometimes some of them will um, could be different things to different cultures and different belief systems. So what we may consider like a negative human haunting, say, someone that's based solely in Christian beliefs would probably refer to as just a demonic entity. It's a demon that's possessing an area, and and it adds, a lot of the different, because it's not a very not well thought out, but well researched field. There are a lot of cross play and cross understandings and issues that arise with miscommunication just because of the matters at hand, and how there isn't like a clear set definition on what's what and who's who.
Yeah,
As I
so
said, there's no official classification guide. There's more just like this is our system that we use. This is what we use, and this is what we believe, and this is how we use it, and working from there.
yeah, so it really like you said, it depends on the individual. Some people may classify something as just a negative human haunting or demonic haunting, or sometimes even a shamanic haunting. That is an actual thing. There, it could
Shamans don't
be,
haunt.
well, you can get in that
Define
in
what
a
you
minute.
mean by shamanic haunting.
Well, like shamanic practices. Shamanic is a broad term to begin with.
Yeah, but it's something that humans do, living creatures do.
Yeah. So like,
I mean, like, what do you mean by shamanic haunting?
well, example would be ritualistic, like someone pulling up a ritual into an area to summon entities into a location would be my definition of a shamanic
Well,
haunting. I wouldn't say necessarily like a seance or something, but like your typical summoning ritual.
first of all, if the person's summoning, they're an idiot. Um, well, I guess shamans do summon their spirit guides, but that's a little different. They don't haunt. That's the thing. Like when a shaman summons a spirit guide, they are in the spirit realm and they don't come into the material plane. When it happens otherwise, that's not, shamans don't summon things into the material plane normally. They either work with what's already here, or they work with a spirit guide that's in the spiritual realm, and that one, it doesn't cross over. The reason a shaman exists is because they are the entity or the person that crosses between the two. So shamans, that's why I say shamans don't hunt. They don't do anything that would cause a hunting. They may cause what we would consider, what you would consider a residual haunting, where they will impart some kind of energy into an area or a object, but that's different. There's no, because for them there's no spirit there, or at least there's no spirit in the material plane causing that. There's if there is a spirit, it's already there and they're just interacting with it. Like for example, asking the spirit of the trees to uh you know work with people in an area to make sure that they don't get lost or something like that. That would be working with spirits that are already present in the material plane, um, but that are not, they're technically making a type of residual haunting, quote unquote. But all that means is they're basically asking them for aid, and the spirits can do as they please normally,
Okay.
unless you're a dark shaman and you force a spirit, but that's both advanced and something I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, that's a level of work that isn't really recommended, even for both
Dark
sides of the
magicians
field.
normally dark magicians normally don't work that way with spirits. Normally they work with the person themselves and cause them problems individually. They're their own breed of special fuckheads, to put it in simple terms.
Yeah, they're their own breed of problem.
Yeah, my specialization is shamanic understanding and magic, and in shamanic realm, the shamanic culture and realm. Although I'm basically a newbie in the matter, but I have some basic understanding. Um, the most a shaman is like a conduit. They don't Nothing crosses over through them. Most cases.
Almost like the other end of a
They're not like
walkie-talkie.
yeah, they're not like a psychic medium either. They don't like what okay, say a person wants to talk to, like, for example, like a dead loved one.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, a shaman wouldn't do that. That's the psychic that does that. But say they decided to, for whatever reason, like they need information from them. The shaman doesn't bring that spirit to the material world. They go to the spirit realm and ask them themselves and then come back. So
Gotcha.
it's like a game of telephone at that point. They don't bring spirits to or don't bring spirits from outside that couldn't already have been in the material realm. If they're calling on a spirit, it's either already there or it already had the ability itself to bring itself to the material realm. If that makes sense. Like, for example, if you're more in the Christian sect of this kind of culture, uh, if you wanted to say call Archangel Michael, if you believe in that kind of way of doing it, because the whole like summoning of angels and demons is the same thing as summoning as dealing with spirits in the upper and lower planes, which is how shamans view it. They view it kind of like oh god, what is it? Is it Tolkien? Where he has Midgard, which is like the material plane, and then there's heaven and hell, which are like the lower and higher planes, and that's it, essentially.
That sounds about right.
I think that's how he does it, but that's how shamans actually view it, and I believe that's where he got the view of that, or it might have just been Christian because he was, I believe, Catholic. Um, but the way if for example, if you have a similar view as that, you're a shaman, and you say want to summon Archangel Michael, you are not bringing him forth. You're asking him to come forth, and he already has the energy to move between the planes. But he normally doesn't manifest on the material plane except to small degrees. It'd be because manifestations cost for a spirit costs exorbitant amounts of energy compared to like us, because we're already in a way already manifested in the material plane. So it's not like a difficult task for us to say move an apple across the table or do this or that, speak and stuff like that, because we're already here, and so it costs a lot less energy. But for them, they essentially have to basically, the way I kind of explain it to someone is, it's like you already have like, for example, for talking, you already have a mouth, and that's most of the energy already done.
Mm-hmm.
And you just manifest the movements that cause the objects inside you to move in such a way to speak. However, a spirit has to essentially, it's not an exact analogy, but essentially they have to manifest all the objects of a mouth and then move those objects and then produce the sound. So they require a lot more energy to do the exact same given task. If they want to move an object, they essentially have to manifest a hand and then the energy to move the object.
Yeah, that's why
So
typically whenever you have any sort of like interaction with something from the immaterial, it's not always like this, like, oh my god, from Hollywood, it's like objects are flying around the room. That's not always the case. Most of the
not
time
only is that
it's
not always the case, it's almost never like that, because it
yeah.
would be, if you had objects like spinning around your room, like multiple objects, you're not dealing with a ghost, you're dealing with a god, because the god's the only thing that's going to have that much energy to move that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or some sort of like really powerful entity. I saw a
Right.
video on one of the houses that were like super haunted in the United States, and it was a video recorded of like a drawer in the kitchen opening up and like a spoon kind of flying out off to the table and then a knife literally coming from the actual drawer and flying into a wall. I think that's the only like big thing I've seen of like objects being recorded like moving with a high amount of force.
Yeah, but the thing is that they can impart a large amount of force to the object, but not a large. It's not dexterous. There's not a lot of manipulation, which is
Yeah.
what you'll see if you see high levels of manipulation, high levels of force, a lot of movement in objects. Uh, Pray to your God, because that is not a spirit you're dealing with. You're dealing with a divine entity. Like that is the amount of power that's required for that would probably like wipe out a nation's electrical grid. Like that's way too much power to be like I wouldn't even want to speculate what could do that. Most
Or
things
having
like
an entire like group of people, and I'm talking like multiple people, because essentially human beings are like walking nukes with the amount of energy that flows through our bodies. So you need a lot of people and a lot of energy to produce that kind of power.
um and a lot of time,
Yeah,
because
it's extremely time consuming.
like a human being may have a lot of energy compared to a spirit, but in comparison to like let's make a hypothetical situation here. Say hypothetically you sacrifice someone to a spirit to give it energy to do something. You might be able to, like, from a very energetic person with a lot of like spiritual energy in them, sacrificing them might be able to get the same effect of the like drawer and the spoon and the knife, and that's it. Like, yeah, they have a lot of energy compared to a spirit, but the reason they have so much energy is because they're already manifested. When it comes to like summoning a spirit, normally what you're looking for is time. Um, and it requires like I would like if I say wanted to manifest effects like that, I would have to spend time meditating for long periods of time and trying to give that one spirit all that energy.
Or the other hypothesis I heard from, for at least from that specific video, was that was like weeks and weeks of just dead time of them just manifesting energy and drawing in energy. So I mean, if anything, they become batteries for a little bit and just drop it on to one action.
Yeah, like they can draw energy to an area, or if you have like which is one of the reasons that normally you will have like high EMF in an area with a spirit, is because they're drawn to areas with high EMF. However, that doesn't also doesn't necessarily mean there is a spirit there. It just means that it's got some kind of energy source there to draw off of. So, for example, because one of the things that can happen is just EMF sensitivity, and people thinking there's a spirit there, but all it's happening is they have sensitivity to EMF frequencies.
Yeah, and that can cause anything from nausea to paranoia to depression to there's a number of effects that go on with EMF sensitivity and can actually cause very permanent and long-term damage if you're not careful with it.
Along with other things like um, a very common thing that causes similar effects is God, I hate sunburns. Is like I'm itching like crazy, and like this whole time I've been just rubbing aloe vera on me and trying to like get it to stop. Um, One of the other things is carbon monoxide. Actually, like low amounts of carbon monoxide will cause feelings of paranoia and dread, and the feeling of someone watching you, and hallucinations and things like that. So like there are other ways to encounter what you may feel are spiritual entities, and they may we don't know. This is another thing, like we don't know how, like we honestly have no idea how hallucinations work. We absolutely have no idea how they work. like we don't know like epistemologically the truth of the matter, the study of the truth
Mm-hmm.
and what is true and what is real. Like we don't know what they are actually, because one of the actually recent studies about a little over a year ago was that the brain um, creates. We all know that the brain creates DMT. However, they learned that the brain creates enough DMT to be similar to a transmitter, like a neurotransmitter, like serotonin. I think they studied against serotonin. They said there's about half as much DMT as there is serotonin, which for neurotransmitters, that's a significant, or for anything, that's a significant amount.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the theories they kind of postulated was that that either all hallucinations are actually real or nothing is real. And that's basically the options we have now, because with the amount that's in there, you would essentially have to be hallucinating constantly. There's no other option, and it's already been proven with a combination of logic and science that what we perceive as reality is a hallucination, and it's the exact same in terms of category and phenomenology in terms of effect as a hallucination. There's no like distinguishing difference other than the fact that other than the fact of the onset of a hallucination versus the fact that reality seems to be more stable,
Yeah,
which
that's
is something that I'd actually like to talk about for a bit.
well. We
A
need
bit of a
to.
side tangent.
We you've already ran on a side tangent.
Oh no, I have, because this is related to spiritology, but it's a bit of a tangent on the matter.
All right.
Because I mentioned sociological effects, and one of the things I've noticed, and I think I've noticed it in general as a general feeling, but I notice it feels like it's starting to permeate society somewhat, and that is that reality for the past like 6 months has just felt off, and it's getting worse, or it's getting more intense is the better way to put it. Because getting worse implies that it's a bad thing, but it's like things that before, like 6 months ago, I've been like, oh, that's really cool. That's kind of weird. Hell, actually, 2 years ago, we'll go with that. Even earlier, I'd say for me personally, but like, uh, things are just kind of like feeling weird almost. Like reality doesn't feel as stable as it used to. Is the best way I can describe it. Things that really I feel like shouldn't be normal are normal, and I don't mean this in like a socio-political way either. Like I don't mean like oh people are rioting in the streets and that's crazy. I don't give a damn about that. That has nothing to do with this. This is more on a personal level, on matters like synchronicities and things like that, where it's like where like
God, the synchronicities have been bad lately.
yeah, like it used to be that like a synchronicity was a big event for me because it was like a once in a couple months, once in a year kind of thing. And like and it was like small things, but just it happening was like like when I was way younger, it was like it happened once and I was like, "Oh my God, that is crazy. That's dope." But it was like that's a neat coincidence. And then it happened like a year later and I was like, "That's a neat coincidence. That's happened to me before. That's pretty cool." And then it happened like 9 months later. And I was like, "Huh. That's interesting." And then 6 months later. And I was like, "That was pretty quick. That's weird." And then but they'd get stronger and weirder. And it kept happening and happening until there'd be periods where the synchronicities would be just either off the chart or just absolutely bonkers. And now it's gotten to the point, but those would be like specific specialty circumstances, in the sense of like
Yeah.
being on drugs or being in an altered state of consciousness, in whatever sense that is. Like they would be like a week that I'd be like having synchronicities back to back and back to back, and I'd be like freaking out. Um, but now it's more like it's different. It's like synchronicities are constant almost, but they've just permeated everything to the point where it's like that weird, strange coincidence that keeps happening, or that weird, strange coincidence that is happening here and there and there and there, and it's they're unrelated from what I can tell, but they are like they keep happening, is just normal at this point. And it wasn't like they became normalized in me. It's just that like seeing them was like, yeah, that happens, and like you start seeing it in like where it's the big thing where something kind of is changing is when that same sense of like that same feeling or that same viewpoint is echoed in other people or media and their viewpoints, and
Mm-hmm.
you can see it from them, and it's like something, like I think everyone can feel something big is about to happen. And I don't mean this in like the like we've had things where it's like something big is about to happen, but what we mean is like we can tell like a specific area where it's like, oh, there's about to be a war soon, like something big's about to happen, or like in a day where you're like something big's about to happen today, like today's gonna be a bad day or something like that. But it's like for here, it's like something big's about to happen, and it's based in the very fundamental fabric of reality, like that kind of big.
Yeah.
And it's such a strange, weird feeling that like I've never felt before, and I've never seen echoed before. Because normally, like you can feel echoes of the past, or like you can feel the tension growing as World War II was about to start in the writings and I think there's recordings of that time, like that time period. You could feel it kind of echoing back. But like now, it's like I've never seen anything like this. It's so strange.
Yeah. The and just on the synchronicities themselves, it's not just like a localized thing either. Like specific places are getting it. It's global. It's like
Yeah,
reverberating throughout the fabric of reality.
it is everywhere, and it is so weird to experience that. And I think I'm personally quite sensitive to the matter, because like I think more sensitive than most people to like the changing of times and like what's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
because all throughout my life I've dreamt of premonitions a lot. But one of the things that's crazy is when when it's not a dream at all, and it's like I was into, like, the example that pops into mind, it's like a really like in-depth thing, but it's happened before with other things where it's smaller things, where it's like the best thing I can example that's culturally widespread that everyone kind of knows about was fidget spinners
Mm-hmm.
or fidget toys in general. The concept of a fidget toy, I saw the first ones being made, which I believe was the fidget cube. That was like
Yeah.
one of the first ones that was invented, and when it was on Kickstarter, when it had just came out like a couple months before, I was like, that's going to be, that's an awesome idea. Everyone should have one of these. That's dope. And then it became a widespread fad like a couple months later. And I was like, dude, I was just looking at those a little bit ago. Like that's crazy. But um there's some kind of, it's not like there's a lot of things where it's like it's changing something's changing culturally, like beneath the surface, but there's also this sense of like the entire feeling is like the sense of anticipation, like a bunch of people going like it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, like something's coming, like we can sense that, or like the scene where like a jump scare is about to happen, like you're just waiting for it, and then it happens, but it's yet to happen, and you're just kind of like anticipating this happening, like and it just makes me think back to Terrence McKenna, where he there are two things that come to mind. One of them is time wave zero, which he said was going to end, the time wave was going to end in 2012. And I can say that like from 2012 on, things did feel strange, but I think because it basically coincided with the Mayan calendar,
Mm-hmm.
and we found that the Mayan calendar was off. So it was actually because they had 360 days in their calendar, not 365. We had to recalculate it, and it turns out that the difference is 2020 was the December of 2020. And like after that period, things have actually felt strange, and things have just been weird this entire year. And like the the other thing that comes to mind that I just recently listened to that I think is worth some note kind of discussing is Terence McKenna's theory on a cultural self-regulation device. And this is him talking about, specifically he's talking about UFOs. And he says
Right.
that UFOs are actually not, he said he's not like certain that they're full on like quote unquote real in the sense there's a substantial object there. He thinks that they're almost a activity performed by the subconscious on the world that manifests itself as a reflection. If that makes any sense.
That.
Um, I'll explain in a little more detail. The example he gives is the only other time this has happened is Jesus Christ. That's what he actually goes with.
Mm-hmm.
He says that the culture of the Roman Empire became materialistic. They were, Athens, Greco-Roman, basically scientific people.
Mm-hmm.
They had slavery. They, basically the things that he says are the starters for it is materialism, imperialistic tendencies, and degradation of human rights. When those things start to get out of control, he says that the subconscious and reality seems to have some kind of governor in terms of like a thing that keeps something from spinning too fast. That kind of when it notices this seems to course correct. And what happened was that Jesus Christ came. And then for 1,000 years, we were plunged into, at least technologically, a dark age. We were plunged into where that was, the only thing that mattered. He was that period's UFO. And what he's saying is that the UFO now is a similar phenomenon where because our industry and everything is getting to that point that some kind of reality self-regulating governor device is going to activate and create something to essentially basically go chill the fuck out and bring us back to basically throw us to the other extreme in some way. Now he gave the matter of UFOs as his thing, as his theory on it. But this is
Mm-hmm.
like in the 80s, like the 70s, 80s, or 90s, somewhere in that period. I personally disagree. I think the thing that's coming to, uh, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, coming to collect is psychedelics. I think that's what is the because it fits every parameter of what he discusses. It is the thing that destroys um, cultural assumptions and frees you from the bindings of a certain culture. And I think it's more powerful than the matters of like Jesus Christ, where it throws to the other extreme. I think it's almost a synthesis of the two extremes, or at least it will lead us closer to a synthesis of the two extremes.
Okay.
And that instead of being, because it teaches basically everything that's the opposite of the things that activate the governor, which is materialism, imperialism, and degradation of human rights. It literally extols the virtues of the exact opposite of those two. And I think it's going to activate the archaic revival, which will be the force in opposition to that status quo that will then plunge us towards archaic revival as a focus. And then that will begin to govern us back towards some kind of equilibrium. I believe that there won't be another that there won't be a necessity for another governor device because Jesus Christ is an instance thing.
Mm-hmm.
He lives, he dies, he rises again, but done. The bun's in the oven, it's cooked, you ate it, it's gone. However, psychedelics are here to stay, as far as I can tell. They're not going away, and no matter how, the government tried. I think the government realized, in general, most of the governments realized what it was that this was doing, because it's a destabilizing force. It destroys the power that the government holds. Just by the fact of even just one dose, you have immediately changed the way a person views reality, which I think is hilarious because the government tried to use it in MK Ultra, but that was before they understood it. And I think after what they observed from it was that it wasn't dangerous to it wasn't dangerous as a weapon against another regime. It was dangerous to all regimes. It was a force that, if left alone, would essentially break the current cycle and system that is there. And I
Or
want to kind of get more into how psychedelics and spiritology affect things, but we will pin that for another time.
yes, because I was about to say, like, you need to pin that somewhere. You're going pretty deep down that rabbit hole. I
Well,
need to reel you back.
I'm literally I give everyone the Morpheus option. If you've seen the Matrix, if you haven't, then why the fuck are you here? Go watch the Matrix, just the first one. The other ones don't matter; they're shit. Just the first one. Come back, and literally the scene of I can either give you the red pill or the blue pill. You take the blue pill, and you go back to your world. You forget any of this happened, and you live your life like normal. You take the red pill, and uh, I can't promise you anything. All I can promise you is the truth, and we'll see how far down this rabbit hole goes. And in my mind, society is literally being handed that option, and the red pill is psychedelics. That is the rabbit hole, and if you want to go down that rabbit hole, you can. And the blue pill is just choosing not to take it. The blue pill isn't a pill in itself; it's more of not taking the other option.
Yeah, the way I put it is like we're about to hit what I call the neo hippie revolution. I think that's an actual thing that's gonna happen here within the next couple of years.
The archaic revival is how
Yeah.
Terrace kind of put it.
It's whether humanity likes the idea or not, I feel like it's coming either way.
And I think I honestly truly believe that COVID-19 was the catalyst. That the effects of the combination of COVID-19 with the American presidency just here, and the effects of COVID-19 worldwide in general, kind of it's the orcs attack thing, where
Yeah.
you destabilize everything. It doesn't have to be like a permanent destabilization. You don't have to go post-apocalyptic. Just destabilize everything for a year and a half, and everyone will suddenly reorient and go, why the fuck was I doing this? And they'll reassess their values. And when you when you when you do that from like a perspective, I think of a person who has, because I did this a while back. When you go do this from the perspective of a person who is the rational scientific mind of, even not in the rational scientific mind, more importantly from the lower, even, I don't want to say lower class or lower intelligence, but that's essentially what I'm pointing at. um the matter of the average everyday man, of the goes to the 9 to 5, has a family and has kids, lives till he's 60, has retirement and dies. You stop and go, what the fuck why am I doing that? Why is that what I'm doing? Why am I trying to go for that? That shouldn't, it makes you think, why is that my goal? That's a shit goal. It's terrible. I think nobody thinks that's a good, like, no one wants that life really deep down.
Yeah. Hell, I
And
don't even really want that life, to be completely honest with you. Like I think that's a waste of time, intellect, and resources.
yeah, and it's unfortunate, but I think that the concept of the archaic revival is to is to disrupt that very aspect. It is the culture that the Archaic Revival destroys is the corporate America 9 to 5 capitalist work until you're 60, retire, suffer in a retirement home until you die mentality. The ultra scientific, that mindset, that area right there, the person that crosses all their T's and dots all their I's and follows every kind of cultural like belief, which trust me, I know some people like that, and it's like, why? Like like as someone who is an aspect of the Joker, like most people are, it's like I pity you. Like you're missing out on so much of life. I feel so sorry that this is where your life is. Like I feel as much pity for someone who's in that, like, yeah, I don't care if you're successful. I feel as much pity for someone who's in that position as a heroin addict who's homeless. Like that is like the honest to God truth, because you don't it's like you just don't see life, and you're not viewing it. You don't get to enjoy what's actually out there. And it makes me really sad. But I my hope is that this change, I think 2020 kind of snap people out of that and go, hey, stop for a second and think about what the hell you're doing, where you're heading, and what you're doing with your life. And that maybe that will that it I think it's going to be a slow process, unless something like, I don't want to say catastrophic, but catastrophic class, like catastrophe level of event happened, like aliens appearing and actually visibly to everyone where you can see them. Although there is many speculations about Terrence McKenna that the mushrooms are already the aliens, and we just weren't paying attention basically. They've been here all along, you dumbasses. Um, and it's speculation, but it's a pretty sound theory in my opinion. But or the very matters of fundamental reality ripping at their seams. Like, I don't know. My hope is one day being able to like cast magic, or for example, he talks about the DMT machine elves and the fact that when you meet them, their only goal is to get you to figure out how to speak like they do, where they can speak objects into existence. Like that is why they're there. That's what they do when you're there with them. That's all they're trying to get you to do. And like I think if one person is ever able to master it, that would, and be able to bring that back out of the DMT realm to this realm, that right there would fundamentally change everything.
I agree.
And if
And
it is possible, I am all for trying to do that. Like as a person, like a life submission.
I'll go ahead and round out today's podcast with my own little tangent about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like with synchronicities, the thinness of the reality seam.
Can we make a term for that? Can we just call that the veil?
Yeah,
Because I think that's a general term to give us like the feeling of what is real and what isn't.
Yeah,
well, quote unquote what isn't.
The thinness of the veil just keeps getting thinner and thinner, and in spiritology terms, like if you recount like the last, I don't know, 3-4 years, like spiritual contact has escalated dramatically. And I'm not talking about like, oh, maybe, a few houses here and there have seen spikes and stuff. No, I'm talking like entire towns becoming overrun with spirit energy entities and just phenomenons that they cannot explain. And coming from, the scientific end of the background here, I see that as the same way. I do see that in the same light. The thinness of the veil is becoming closer and closer and closer to a full-on rip. And I think once we get to that point, either society decides to start flipping on its head with the archaic revival, or a major catastrophic event happens, we're gonna see that veil just break.
And, or all of the above.
or all the above.
Yeah.
Something, as you said, there's anticipation. Something is going to happen within the next 3 to 5 years that is going to fundamentally change how we look at reality as a whole.
I honestly, truly think it's going to be less than that. It's not going to take that long.
Well,
Like
you
I
estimate like another 6 months to a year.
I'm thinking like within a year from now. Like I'm saying that we will see some kind of fundamental change within the next year that will be the warning sign of like this is about to happen. Like I don't think it's going to take that long. Like it's more of a matter of from my sensitivity to the matters at hand. Just in the last 6 months, the speed at which it's not a speed of things are weird after and started at January, and they've been that weird since. It's things have been kind of a little off January. Now they're weird February. Now they're kind of strange. Now they're getting weirder, and it's speeding up. That's the matter at hand. So I think that like if it continued at the pace it is right now, yeah, 3 to 5 years. But I think it's speeding up and getting faster and faster and faster. And by the time we get to about a year from now, it'll be so fast, it'll be zooming by you. It'll get to the point where it's just like where you hit on where it's uncanny, where it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, the you get to the point where the uncanny becomes the norm. Strangeness becomes normal.
Yeah, and I honestly I can't wait. I'm so if what we're talking about is true, which I get the strange feeling that it is. I can't wait because I'm just so done with the way this world is right now. Like it's not the fundamentals of this world is fine as it is. However, it needs to get mixed up. We need something completely new.
We need someone to press the ludicrous speed button and see what happens.
We need someone to press the like wacky wilderness button. We need someone to just make things like my hope. This is less of like speculation or a like this is more like a that'd be really cool and I wish that happened kind of thing. Is that like magic becomes a thing, like actual full on like anime style magic, like that, just that, where it's like matter can now be created and destroyed kind of thing, or even something that's not quite that but similar, like that. The very fact of being able to actually cast like scientifically provable and fundamentally understood, like where you'll have an entire science team researching magic, like that kind of thing. That is what like I hope to like have. At that point, I'll just become a hermit and research magic for the rest of my life. Fuck everything else.
Yeah, basically being able to maybe not necessarily like the like actual creation and destruction of matter and energy, but I think like the fundamental ability to properly convert matter and energy and then back and forth, energy to matter.
Well, here's the thing.
As a physical like thing someone could do.
If you can convert one, because I think we're fundamentally at the point where you understand that matter and energy are the same thing, fundamentally.
Yeah, fundamentally.
According to Einstein's more of a hypothesis than anything else, his E equals mc squared. If you could convert a single grain of sand into energy completely with no loss, you've basically created energy, because the amount of energy would be more than what's currently in the closed system that is this universe. Like that is the level of energy he's referring to. So the concept of creating matter and energy is, easily just ignorable at that point. That's why I say the idea of matter cannot be created or destroyed. It is a fundamental precept of science. However, so is the fact that time moves normally and moves at regular intervals. And we already know at this point that that's not true.
Yeah, me and you both have had that experience and discussion that time, we know for a fact time is for the most part speeding up.
Yeah, so we don't we don't know what will change once it gets to a certain speed, because I think that's what's happening. That's the feeling of anticipation that we're feeling, is time kind of speeding up all of a sudden.
Yeah, the
And it's
frequency of the universe is changing.
Yeah, something's going on. What, we don't know yet, but I feel like in the next year we'll at least have an inkling or an idea of what's going to happen, if nothing else.
Yeah. Well, we have hit time.
Mm-hmm.
We have actually knocked out a whole entire episode. Holy shit.
Expect more to come.
Yes, expect more nonsense from us to come.
We have plenty to fucking talk about.
Lots. But yeah. Well, thank you so much, Knox, for joining me today. I appreciate you and your time. And I will see you next week, my friend.
All right. See you then.
Later. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Cocktails and Curiosities. If you are new around here, I have some socials up above so you can keep in contact and in touch with us on a regular basis. I read all my comments and all my DMs, all of them. If you have any ideas, suggestions, concerns, thoughts, ramblings, send them to me. I will mold them over to a degree so we digest it and we can talk about. I have a Twitch where I stream almost every day. I do these things. Today's podcast actually substituted for today's normal stream, which I'll probably just start doing on Mondays. The podcast will be on Mondays. The stream is the podcast. Of course, I have a Twitter, which I read all my messages. That's a fantastic way to keep up with me outside of the podcast and the streams. I do have a YouTube channel. I actually have footage for airsoft content, which will be going up there probably sometime this week after I edit it and mess with it. But yeah. Also, that's where I post Behind the Veil and all the past podcasts. If you want to look at the past podcasts, they are there. And also, we have a Patreon. Well, I have a Patreon, but mainly the Patreon for the channel. If you want to support us outside of the streams, the vlogs, the airsoft stuff, and the podcasts, and all that lovely stuff, that is a good way to support us. I'm going to shamelessly plug the hell out of it. It is there. I appreciate it if you would use it. I do put a lot of work and effort into each of these streams and podcasts to get them running functionally and somewhat digestible. But yeah. Schedule, also below schedule, is going to properly change sometime either tomorrow or Wednesday. I haven't quite decided yet. I'm going to work on that. But yeah. Enjoyed today's stream. Follow, subscribe, all that lovely jazz. And I'll see y'all